Transnational Literature Series here at Brookline Booksmith, and your host for tonight's conversation. I want to open up this space by saying thank you for coming out tonight. The Booksmith has been around since 1961, and that's because of our wonderful community. Your support means we can keep having events like this, so thank you again. As you may know, tonight's event is part of our ongoing Transnational Literature Series, which focuses on stories of migration, the intersection of politics and literature, and works in translation. If you enjoyed tonight's event, please check out our full events lineup online at brooklinebooksmith.com so you don't miss some of the amazing authors we have coming up this spring, both virtually and in store. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates. Tonight's event, In the Hour of War, is a showcase of poets, translators, and artists from 4 new books published by Aerosmith Press that consider what it means to be Ukrainian during these unthinkable times. To have as much time as possible to listen to tonight's guests, I will forego introductions and encourage you to look at the program book. The information is also available on our website. We have copies of all the featured titles available over at the register, and at the end of tonight's event, we will have a signing. And please take a moment to silence your cell phones. I think that takes care of the business end of things, so please join me in welcoming our first reader, poet and translator, Olga Livshin.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming here to support Ukraine, and thank you so much to Brookline Booksmith for hosting us. The book that we translated, several of us, is called Today is a Different War, and it is by Lyudmila Khersonska, a poet from my hometown of Odessa. Lyudmila is currently in exile, but she's an Odessa poet. She's lived in Odessa all her life. She is a Russian language poet. Ukraine is a diverse country. And she was born in 1964. We are going to actually start with Maya and myself. I will read an original of her poetry so you can get a sense of Lyudmila's voice and musicality. And Maya will read one of her translations, and we'll kind of alternate a little bit. So Maya, this is my wonderful translator, Maya Chhabra. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Going to hear Maya read War Day 4. The book is structured as a war diary.
No, not really.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually us. Never mind. The book is structured as a war diary, but actually Maya will read something potentially even more interesting and spicy to start with, and it's a highly feminist poem called A Russian Invader Who Has Forgotten All Chivalry. Welcome, Maya.
Hi. So this poem has kind of an interesting story. Lyudmila often posts her poetry to Facebook just as things are happening. And I saw this on basically day 2 or so, right, of the invasion. And I immediately translated it because it is just very, very sharp and very good. And apparently I actually made an error in the first line, which wasn't noticed in the first printing. So then when the time came to collect it, I got to correct it. But I'd like you to all enjoy this very tough poem about women in wartime. Russian invader who's forgotten all chivalry, fear female revenge and female conspiracy. Fear Ukrainian girls, Molotov cocktails in hand, fear our women above all in this strange foreign land. They didn't call or invite you, they weren't waiting for you. Keep an eye on your obsolete tank, they'll unscrew the pedals, rip off the mask, scratch off your face. Our long nails are the latest in fashion and grace. Our slender fingers accustomed to kitchen complexity, that's harder than your dumb vehicles. To give you apoplexy, to strike you dead in the house that is someone else's home, to keep you under the rubble in the bombed-out airdrome, to stop you getting out of the tank, put you in a cervical collar. In a Ukrainian woman's home, there's a working dishwasher, an iron on the table, a slow cooker with a steam valve. But you know nothing but shooting, nothing of salve. Our women bind up wounds, their camouflage nets unfurl, to fight you, you fool, in a foreign country, alone in the world. To turn your uncleansed life into an eternal torment of shame. We ignored Solovyov and read Kafka and Kierkegaard by name. Remember, we'll fear you nothing, you scumbag, so flee your fate. We're painting our nails now. Get out of here before it's too late. For references, Solovyov is an infamous nationalist propagandist on Russian TV, so that's who they've ignored, as it were. And Olga here is going to read the original because it has its own musicality, definitely.
And I loved how your attention to rhyme and rhythm there. Российский захватчик, забывший о воинской чести, бойся женского заговора и женской мести. Бойся украинских девочек с бутылками зажигательной смеси. Бойся наших женщин, особенно в чужом, незнакомом месте. Тебя не звали, не приглашали, не ждали. Танчиком твоим допотопным открутят педали, сорвут твою маску, расцарапают тебе морду. Наши длинные ногти давно уже вошли в моду. Наши тонкие пальцы привыкли к технике кухни. Она сложнее твоих тупых машин, чтоб твои вены вспухли. Чтоб тебя кондрашка хватило у чужого жилого дома. Чтоб ты остался под обломками взорванного аэродрома. Чтоб ты не вышел танка, чтоб тебе на шею шина. У украинской женщины работает посудомоечная машина. На столе паровой утюг, в кухне духовка, электроварка. А тебя, кроме стрелять, ничему научили припарка. Наши женщины бинтуют раны, плетут маскировочные сети. Против тебя, дурака, в чужой стране ты один на свете. Чтоб твоя немытая жизнь стала вечной мукой позора. Мы не слушали Соловьева, мы читали Кафку и Кьеркегора. Мы не простим тебя любого, запомни, паскуда. Мы уже красим ногти, и пока не поздно, вали отсюда. Yeah, so one of the things I keep saying is I keep quoting Carolyn Forché, who we're very lucky is with us tonight, about this idea of, of poetry of witness, poetry of the dispossessed, of the tortured, of the arrested, of those who are living under war in so many places in the world. And one of the ideas that keeps coming back to me is this idea of not only poets reflecting events, but poetry also creating its own event. And I would argue that with social media, such as they are, imperfect, corrupt, and flawed, there is also a sense in which there is a wave that reaches like a ripple, and it goes in many directions. And one of these waves came to me from Facebook via Maya, and I think the translator's role in these, in such things can be akin to a mender.
Expanding the ripple. Right?
Yeah, expanding the ripple, but also mending. When I saw that Maya was running, as it were, with a bandage, I wanted to be part of the effort. And we're so lucky and thankful to Aerosmith Press.
The book.
Thank you, Aerosmith, for putting all these 4 books that we're about to read tonight.
Thank you. This other one is another poem that I felt very personally impelled to translate. Because Lyudmila had come to live in Italy while having to leave her hometown in Ukraine, which was being bombed. The first poem that I read was written like there, and this next one is written somewhat from the interesting position of being a refugee and an exile. And she happened to go to my other country, my mother's home country, Italy. And so there's a very interesting poem she wrote that's almost about, I don't know, cultural privilege and like whose things that matter. And it's a very beautiful poem about that distance. How nice to take a walk in the whirless world. Is this China teapot worth buying? Where to change trains, where to buy tickets, guests, smiles, people, obedient tourists, lady in a wheelchair coming through, make way, polite police officers, tall waiters, don't put the garbage out at night, the seagulls will get it. Masked, mascarina, signore, stay back from the rail. He says off stage, if a Russian missile destroyed the statue of David, I would die instantly, or the Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. I would die again, like you could die twice. Some places never matter, some places do. War, it's inconvenient for a walk, a salad, an outfit. Bad for tourists or for the Minister of Culture. The Minister bicycles back from work. He will make it home, he won't be killed on the way. By Russian soldiers, for whom killing is a bit of fun. In some countries, such as this one, killing is banned, as is destroying homes and scaring animals to death. These bans do not apply in countries meant to be taken over, not toured. There are people living here who don't matter, and no David for the whole world to die for if the barbarian destroys it.
People kept cracking jokes at us that they're, I'm not going to name any names, that we have 4 translators for almost a chapbook, but we do. We wanted to get this out into the world as soon as we could to keep up awareness and showcase and spotlight this amazing poet. This is my co-translator and husband, Andrew Janco, and we are going to read War Day 4 for us. First, the translation, please.
On the eve of the war, I bought rhododendrons. I went out to plant them. Over our roof, drones. An air raid siren's buzzing, the air defense pounding. It's nothing. I'm not scared. I'll have time to plant. It's nothing. The tiny cat grew huge with raised fur from the loud crash. Music pours from the window, a cantata by Bach. The sun peeks from the sky, a drone flies. Somebody else's ugly things thump from every side. What is this rattling beast that shoots and shoots? What bald Putin celebrates this war like some satanic marriage? Shame, disgust, someone with horns, someone who needs a slingshot. I planted my plant, watered it, squinted at the evil heaven, wherever you are, bald demon. I wish you weren't, you old-fashioned, retrograde, cunning narc. Gramps from the past, a cop's used up cigarette butt. Why the hell would I need your planes, your bombs, snouts, pilots? I live here. It's here that I plant flowers. And your war in these parts is a weird, alien creature. I breathed, I waited, I watched. The birds fly away from their execution by firing squad. I still don't know. How can I try? How will we get the little devils to die?
Ludmila has been writing about the war since its beginning, following the illegal annexation of Crimea, and this is a poem that she wrote before the current full-scale invasion. Buried in a human neck, a bullet. Buried in a human neck, a bullet looks like an eye sewn in, an eye looking back at one's fate. Who shot him there? Who gave the order? Which man? Who will bury him, and what's the rate? When it comes to humanity, war is the beginning and end. Whoever attacks you, don't turn your back. Says the Lord, for my people are foolish, they have not known me. They are silly children, and they have no understanding. But the children feel as strong as their machinery, mass-produced with plenty of menders for repairing. Some ladies patch holes, others fix neck bones, still more sew on buttons that were torn away from hands. And the Lord says, they are wise in doing evil, but, says the Lord, they do not know how to do good. But the children, if they survive, say it was luck. And if they die, they think that was yesterday. Today is another day. And the menders stand with a shroud, telling them, put this on. How long must we put up with the flags, the trumpets calling us into the fray? What beast has awakened? Where did our special forces land? Who shot that man in the back? Who gave the command? Who will bury him, and what's the rate?
War, day 9. Let's fortify our windows so that they don't explode into tiny parts and shards. The bottom of the sea is almost here, crawling up from below, just like back when, a generation ago, the ground churned, decimated their happiness. Wouldn't it be silly to choke like that right now? Things still feel normal. It's spring out there. Yet a cloud of sulfur gas is rising, like someone shaking up a black sea, and a hazardous muck surges to the surface, just like a human's true nature seeping out.
Where, she asks, are my irises? Yeah, the purple ones. Where, she asks, are my irises? Yeah, the purple ones, but especially the yellow ones. Have you seen them? They were tall, with their little tongues sticking out. Their leaves were sharp and strong. They were so tall, so peaceful. Maybe you've seen them?
Oh yes, we saw them. Of course we saw them. We denazified your irises. They were preparing an attack, planning to join the EU and NATO, stockpiling biological beings.
That's not true. They never traveled outside the borders of their garden bed. They're flowers. Why the hell do you lie all the time? You trampled them. To you, nothing will ever be pretty. Why do you lie all the time? Why? And the last poem we're going to read. The last poem we're going to read by Chersonska is When I Am Just Like My Mom. When I am just like my mom, just as pretty and young, I'll be 90 years old. For my birthday, I'll want a bottle of French perfume called Salvador Dali and chili-colored lipstick. Chile is a color, spelled with a lowercase letter. Not Chile, the country by the sea. In the past, they wrote on postcards, I wish you a sea of happiness and oceans of love. Neither this nor that for any of us. My mom has a kind smile and a girl's soft skin. I'll have that too when I turn 90 years old. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here to hear Ukrainian poetry tonight, and to Askold and Ezra for producing these beautiful books, and to Pierce for hosting us. I'm Amelia Glaser. I'm one of the translators of A Crash Course in Molotov Cocktails. This is a book of poems by Halina Kruk, a well-established poet in Ukraine. She also writes short stories and children's stories, and she is a professor of medieval literature at the University of Lviv. And my friend and colleague Ilya Kaminsky and I have been translating Halina's work together for a few years, and we were so thrilled to be able to put this book together this year. I'm sorry that Halina and Yulia can't be here tonight, but we are gathering for various Zoom events as well. So I'll read a few. Well, I'll keep track of my time. I'd like to start with the opening poem from the book, Bifurcation Point. In wartime Lviv, they'll write later, there was a strong literary milieu. Most likely they published as a group, like those modernists in Litusa, or gathered for readings, because what else would poets do in wartime? There were so many there, the internally displaced and the externally dysfunctional, like briefly during the First World War and the Second, on their way through Europe, before the Iron Curtain tore the modern world's voluptuous naked body wide open. Back then it was more about Prague and Poeziebrady, Warsaw and Munich, but this time they'll talk about Warsaw and Lviv, Chernivtsi and Uzhhorod, Ivano-Frankivsk and Ternopil. Where there were so many of those poets, it seemed you couldn't take a step without winding up in each other's poem, in nightmares, in history, in the news, on the floor sharing a mattress, under a single borrowed patchwork quilt. What a perfect metaphor for human coexistence in wartime. Too bad it's worn out. For one family fractured and incomplete. Then explain to someone how in those first months we only crossed paths accidentally, for a few minutes just on business, sometimes on the street, not acknowledging each other at first, startling, as if recalling something hopelessly lost and irretrievable, hugging instead of words to hide streaming tears. How are you? How are you? Not a word about literature. Hang in there, hang in there. Silent and focused, like the first Christians who witnessed Christ's miracles with their own eyes and had no idea how to fathom it and how to make others believe and not mock them, how not to twist or muddle things, because it's never clear which are the important details and which can be disregarded. Then in each account, we omit the parts about ourselves, like apostles on opposite ends of the world, each preaching our own version of the gospel, because any faith depends on a million eyewitness accounts, on countless private stories from that point in reality where no one knows anything yet or understands what that man did beside the dead Lazarus and how he did it. How everyone saw, but not everyone immediately believed, especially if this faith in victory comes from a point not yet visible. This is how they'll describe the early 20s in the relevant chapters on Ukrainian literature. The main thing is not to forget that none of this was about literature. That poem was written in the fall, quite late in the fall of this past year, 2020. This is another poem from the fall of 2020, the story of a ficus, as told by a human who prefers to communicate with plants. Half a year of war, an abandoned ficus registers the events from the window, dreams of leaving through the window frames, long since empty. But no, an abandoned ficus can't go anywhere, though the missile gave it a glimmer of hope and a sudden urge toward the outside world. Few pages have survived from these chronicles of summer, but if it rains, the ficus fills out. A person will enter the building, squeezing past the door that the shockwave unhinged. Not a home, but an inn. Curtain rolled up by the wind, rooms filled with junk, no clear way out. But the ficus below will survive and send out shoots. Leave its broken pot, clasp the black lawn with thirsty roots. Stand proud, grow, wait, for its old man's shuffling slippers, heart to hearts, simple, plantish pleasures. This is a poem that Helena wrote in the early days after the invasion, and Yulia and I translated it very quickly and published it on LitHub for the first time. We were actually a little hesitant to publish this because it's a poem that deals with Russian culpability in the Ukraine war, even the culpability of those Russians who are sympathetic. It's called No War. You're standing with a no war sign, as if to redeem the inevitable. This war can't be stopped. Like bright arterial blood from an open wound, it flows till it kills. It enters our cities with the armed men, seeps into our courtyards with the reconnaissance units, like the deadly mercury beads you can't pick up. You can't fix this, except to find and neutralize it. These civilian managers, clerks, IT guys, and students, life didn't prepare them for street fights, but the war did. On the front line, a landscape so familiar it hurts, in a hurry. At first, they only recruit experienced combat fighters in the defense units. After that, gamers who played Dune and Fallout and had a crash course in Molotov cocktails from a bartender at the local club while the kids slept. The kids were crying. The kids were being born into a world temporarily unfit for all this. Out on the playground, they're assembling Czech hedgehogs, and nuclear families mix deadly drinks. Whole families finally enjoying a conversation and a collective project. War shortens the distance from person to person, from birth to death, from what we never wished for to what it turned out we were capable of. Mom, pick up the phone. A woman's been pleading for 2 hours in the apartment building basement. Stubborn and dense, she won't stop believing in a miracle. But her mother is out of cell phone range in the suburbs, where the prefab collapsed like cheap Legos from the massive strikes, where just yesterday broadcast towers stopped connecting people, where the world got blown up into pre- and post-war, along the uneven fold of the no war sign, which you'll toss in the nearest trash can on your way home from the protest, Russian poet. War kills with the hands of the indifferent, and even the hands of idle sympathizers. This is a poem that I'd like to read. I'll read first in English and then in the Ukrainian to give you a little bit of a sense of it in your ear. We didn't attempt rhyme with too many of these, except maybe little internal rhymes, but this one, it felt a little more important, so we tried to weave it in occasionally. Mama, I'm a pit. Mama, I'm a pit. Where's my name? Window frame. Crossbeam holding it. God flew out the wound, picking up the soul, sutures, surgical, autoclave for pain. Body's silent frame, house grown cold, love can't find in it, shelter or accord. Mama, how a pit, run till you catch up, cry aloud, sob, fallen on your back. God, I accept all your paths, but they can't be moved, but they must be left. All the little ones only barely learned their first words from a mother's tongue, from a mother's hands. Mama, pit, self, how's he now? Mama, pit, how? I'll read this one in Ukrainian. Mama, яма, я, де моє ім'я, рама від вікна, хрестовина на, Бог на виліт йшов, душу підібрав, хірургічний шов, болю автоклав, тіло мовчазне, вихалили дим, не знаходить в ним прихистку любов. Мама, яма, як, бігти навздогін, плакати навзрид, падати навзнак. Боже, я прийму всі твої шляхи, але їх не руш, але їх залиш. Тих усіх малих, що навчились лиш кілька перших слів з материних уст, з материних рук. Мама, яма, сам, як йому тепер? Мама, яма, як? I'd like to conclude with an earlier, actually two earlier. Do I have time for two more? Okay. One from a little bit earlier during the war. So this was written around 2017. And then finally I'll conclude with one around the time of the Maidan. This is called In the Line of Fire. In the line of fire, take an arbitrary interval, marked by some unknowns. Let this be X, let this be Y, which exists somewhere nearby, also hidden. What side are they on? What side are you on? It all depends on the coordinate axes. It all depends on the vector, on the direction it's moving. From this bush, let's say, to the east, or from this tree, for example, to the west. Wet and frozen, thirsty for human warmth. You look at a thermal imager and understand how lonely you truly are in this world, populated and depopulated at the same time. I think it's okay to mention, this is a fairly well-known fact at this point, that Halina's husband has been fighting and while she's been in Lviv working and teaching and writing. And this influences her poetry, I think, in many ways. I want to conclude with a poem that was written in 2014, right after the murder by snipers of about 100 people on the central Maidan Square in Kyiv. We act like children with our dead. We place them together on the Maidan and encircle them, in the cold, in the snow, confused, as if none of us knew until now how easy it is to die. Everyone still hopes they'll lie there for a while and rise again, because what do we tell their mothers? Who will tell them the worst? A person runs toward a bullet with a wooden shield and a warm heart, head in a blood-filled ski helmet, shouting, "Mama, I'm wearing a hat," into the dead receiver. "Mama, his hat's too thin," the bullet hisses.
Hey everybody, good evening. My name is Hanna Melnyczuk, and I just wanted to thank you all for coming out to listen to us. It's wonderful to have you all here. And also I wanted to thank Arrowsmith Press and the whole team for publishing my book. Don't close your eyes. I'm very happy with this book. Also to Brookline Booksmith and Piers for arranging this event. So thank you. I'd like to just read a little bit and talk a little bit about how this book came to be. Okay, sure. I'd like to just share with you how this book happened, really, just how it came to be. So, and then I'll be reading a little bit from it, and you'll be able to see some of the images from the book. My first response to the war was shock and disbelief. I found myself praying, speaking with my family in Ukraine, and speaking with my family here, and speaking with my deceased parents, watching the news, reading the papers. Early on, when we were Zooming with my cousins in Lviv, they said, "Don't forget us. Please don't forget us." I wasn't sure, how I would forget them. They felt it was going to be a long war, and that eventually people may get tired of hearing of the war, and they would close their eyes to the war. Feeling helplessness in the face of this horror, this war, I reacted the only way I knew how. Drawings unfurled in a daily, as a daily record of the events in Ukraine. I was responding to the news, to just visions, just images that I had. And the drawings is what kept me sane during this time, the first months of the war. Each day I would go up to my home studio and I would make a drawing pretty much every day. It was a release of emotion, and I did this out of need. I felt a little strange doing this because I thought, here I am drawing, and really maybe I should be in Ukraine, as a lot of people were going to Ukraine and assisting there. But the drawings kept coming, and I needed to get them out and to get them out of my mind, to exercise them. These drawings were all on paper. Before the war, I had been making drawings for children's books. Been doing this for about 7 years. My work before that was quite different, but I became interested in children's books. So the day that the war started, it was like I completely turned around. My works had been very sort of joyful and whimsical, and suddenly I didn't see that anymore. So I just saw these other images. And the style, though, that I used in my drawings in this book is a little bit similar to what I was using in my children's books. Just going to make a little quote from this. These drawings, my drawings in the book, bring to the fore death and the horror of war through the filter of time and distance, expressing the emotions of one viewing the war from afar, depicting what can only be seen in the mind's eye. End of quote. Now, as I began doing these drawings, I thought, I was thinking, what are artists in Ukraine doing? I mean, here I am safely, but what are the artists in Kiev, Odessa, Lviv, everywhere doing? And luckily, I had recently gone on Instagram, it's pretty new to me, and I was able to find some artists' works. Actually, somebody suggested the work of one artist who had been an icon painter and whose work had completely transformed during the war, Danilo Movchan. And from his Instagram, I saw the work of Halina Andrusenko, and a young artist, and I asked her, I wrote her an email and I said, would you like to do a show of art from Ukraine? Because the work in Ukraine was quite compelling. It was so strong and so powerful. And she was interested in doing this with me. So I was, working on my own stuff, but then I made this wonderful connection with the artist in Ukraine, and it was very special that Helena was interested in doing this, and she helped with finding maybe many artists, and I looked at their work, and I couldn't say no to anybody, so we came up, we had 26 artists, and we had about 200 pieces of work. The show was in the New Art Center. It was also at Bristol County Community College, the Grimshaw Gudavich Gallery. It's recently been in New Jersey. It will be going to Chicago. It will be going to the University of Massachusetts Lowell. And also it will end up back here in Concord at the Umbrella Arts Center. So if you haven't had a chance to see it, please come and see the show. But anyway, I wanted to just say a couple other things about the work. Traveling show. Okay, basically, back to, that was just a project that I've been working and continue to work on. And now back to my own work. So I have just been making these drawings every day, and last summer I met with Oskol, and I showed him these pieces, and he thought they were quite powerful, and he said to me, do you want to do a book? And I said, yeah, I want to do a book, yes. And so the question was, how do I have drawings? Should it just be drawings? But I wanted to write something as well. So that we decided that using quotes and supplementing the work with quotes that had a dialogue with the work, not so much explaining the work, would be appropriate. And that was an incredible process for me to find quotes that I thought would really resonate and would have a dialogue with the work. The book is dedicated to my parents, who taught me to be Ukrainian in America, and to all the brave heroes who have laid down their lives for the freedom of Ukraine, and to all the heroes of Ukraine. The order of the drawings isn't chronological, but there are days when I made the drawings that I'll share with you. But the images are arranged in a way to convey a story that might seem chronological. So what I'm going to do now is to share the book. I'm going to have Lara come up here and show you the images, and I will read from about 12, there's going to be 12 images that I will share with you. Day 6. They expected to be home by spring, but a surprise awaited them on the other end.
Could you hold it up higher? Sure.
Close the sky. This is day 25. Take only what is most important, said Hey Jadan. Day 19, mourning the Ukrainian soldier. He was a hero, they said. He was my father, I said. This next one is Dear Son, day 37. We're on the right one now, okay. You cry so much, Mother, you don't stop sobbing. I can't see your face well, but faces don't matter much. Your hair, I still remember, smells of cornflowers. When When I die, tell the carpenters to take down the rafters and ceiling. Oksana Zabushko. Day 46. His body, like a stone made of feathers, he felt it rise. Day 31. Hiding. Yellow sunflowers filled her eyes. She held her body motionless. Next. Day 13. Over 1,000 children have left Ukraine since the war. 50 children have died in Ukraine and 71 have been injured. Day 13. Shaking the globe, Oksana believed she had the power to bring her father home. Day 49. Grief. Whose son are they burying today? They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor condemn years, the years condemn. And the going down of the sun, and in the morning we will remember them. Lawrence Binion. And the last one. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed, we can be and be better, for they existed. Maya Angelou. Thank you.
Ilya Kaminsky, are you here?
Carolyn Forché, are you here?
We'd like to thank Golda especially, without whom none of this would be published in the world, and Ezra and Aerosmith Press and everyone at Aerosmith Press. And we'd also like to thank Booksmith. Pierce, thank you for hosting us. Thank you all especially for coming, and thank you to the poets and translators whose work is being launched tonight. This very important moment for us. Ilya and I met in the 1990s. Ilya was born in Odessa. When he first introduced himself, he said, I was born in Odessa, former Soviet Union. I write poetry for God. And so Ilya and I became friends. We actually went to Odessa together in 2004. And when this present invasion, this part of the war began in February 2022. The war began in 2014. But when this part began, we wanted to do something. And Askold encouraged us to put an anthology together very quickly. This is the fastest book we've ever done. And it was less than a year. We had, he said, 50 pages. As many poets as you can fit by October. This was something like March, it was, yeah. So we went back and forth together through email and texting and things, and we started gathering the poets, and people sent us things, and we went back and forth, and we found and we gathered, and we found 26 poets. We added one at the last moment. And we had many translators. I will begin by saying that the poems in this book are not arranged by poets by birth order or by alphabetical order. I began to realize in looking at all of the poems that
they wanted to be one poem, that they told a particular story, that they needed to be in a particular order. And that order would begin with a poem about the alphabet. And I'll talk about how it ends later, but Ilya, do you want to read In the Hospital Rooms of My Country? Okay, perfect. Yes, okay, I'll start with English. Ilya will let you hear it in Ukrainian. Except I'm going to butcher the letters, right? In the hospital rooms of my country, letters of the alphabet go to war, clinging to one another, standing up, forming words no one wants to shout, sentences that are blown by the mines in the avenues, stories shelled by multiple rocket launches. A Ukrainian word is ambushed through the broken window of the letter A. Other countries watch how the letter E loses its head, how the roof of the letter M falls through. The language in a time of war can't be understood. Inside this sentence is a hole. No one wants to die. No one speaks. By the hospital bed of the letter Enya lies a prosthesis too shy to use. You can see the light through the clumsily sewn up holes of the letter Omega. The soft sign has its tongue torn out due to disagreements regarding the etymology of torture. There is too much alphabet in the hospital rooms of my country. Too much alphabet. No place to stick an apostrophe. Paint falls off the walls, showering us with words incomprehensible, like men who in wartime refused to speak. This version was done by Katie Ferris and Ilya Kaminsky.
Before I read it in the language that most of you don't know, it is popular these days to talk about war in Ukraine. It's so hip. The war is not in Ukraine, the war is here in this room as well. Every time we don't call a politician and say, please close the sky, we participate in the war by doing nothing. Every time we don't donate, we participate in the war by not opening our vote. Now here is the poem in Ukraine. This is Panasюка. Літери йдуть на війну, складаються в слова, які ніхто не хоче вимовляти. Речення подриваються на мінах, історії обстрілюють системами залпового вогню. Слава дим, влучає снаряд, крізь розбите вікно літери Д. Можна побачити, як літера І влічає голову, як провалюються дах літери М. Мов в час війни не впізнати, речення такі недолугі. Ніхто не хоче помирати, ніхто не хоче говорити. Для лекарного личка литер И лежит протез яхтовичного знака, яко война сломится, уже в которой расходятся швы просветами литеры Ф. Від кульовых бананов на этимологичном фронте мягкий знак встратив язык під час кодування. Палати забиті літерами, ще їх апострофа не вставиш, впирає фабна систем, осипаються слова, недоразумными покручами, и кто нами будет говорить?
We also included Lyudmila Kershansky's poetry and Boris Kershansky's poetry in our anthology. And I would like to read one of Lyudmila's poems now in English. In a country where everyone's name is fear. In a country where everyone's name is fear, it's good that you don't see a thing and don't hear a thing. Say to anyone, not a thing. Slip nothing into your bra. Keep nothing in your pocket. In both ears, nothing. In two eyes, nothing. Blind feet, no looking back. No looking back. If you look back, my brave, if my brave, you look back, my brave, you say nothing. When you arrive to a new destination, they will learn nothing from you. They will learn what nothing is.
Translators, so you're gonna make some work a little bit. But before that, just to, you already heard about Lyudmila today, but just to add a little bit, Lyudmila wasn't born in Ukraine, she was born in Moldova. So she wrote in Russian after now she's beginning to write poems in Ukrainian, in her third language. Can you hear me at all? Good morning, America. Okay, well, it feels very strange not to invite translators to read their own translations. So we have in the room with us Olga Livshin, who has translated Oksana Zabushko. Would you do us an honor?
I think you met her out. Yeah, fortunately, this is a poem that I did not translate with the poet standing over my shoulder as I've done other times. This is a definition of poetry by Oksana Zabushko. I know I will die a difficult death. Like anyone who loves the precise music of her own body, who knows how to force it through the gaps in fear as through a needle's eye, who dances a lifetime with that body. Every move of shoulders, back, and thighs, shimmering with mystery like a Sanskrit word. Muscles playing under the skin like fish in a nocturnal pool. Thank you, Lord, for giving us bodies. When I die, tell the roofers to when I die, tell the roofers to take down the rafters and ceiling. They say my grandfather, a sorcerer, finally got out this way. When my body softens with moisture, the bloated soul, dark and bulging, will strain like a blue vein in a boiled egg white. And the body will ripple with spasms like the blanket a sick man wrestles off because it's hot. And the soul will rise to break through the press of flesh, curse of gravity. The cosmos, above the black well of the room, will suck on its galactic tube, heaven breaking in a blistering starfall, and draw the soul up, trembling like a sheet of paper. My young soul, the color of wet grass, to freedom. Then, stop, it screams, escaping on the dazzling borderline between two worlds. Stop, wait, my God, at last, look, here's where poetry comes from. Fingers twitching for the ballpoint, growing cold, becoming not mine.
Thank you, Askel. Thank you. We'll come close to to the mic now so you can hear us. This poem is Serti Zadan, and it is translated by Virlana Sa and Wanda Phipps. Take only what is most important. Take only what is most important. Take the letters. Take only what you can carry. Take the icons and embroidery. Take the silver. Take the wooden crucifix and the golden replicas. Take some bread, the vegetables from the garden, then leave. We will never return again. We will never see our city again. Take the letters, all of them, every last piece of bad news. We will never see our corner store again. We will never drink from that dry well again. We will never see familiar faces again. We are refugees. We'll run all night. We will run past fields and sunflowers. We will run from dogs, rest with cows. We'll scoop up water with our bare hands, sit waiting in camps, annoying the dragons of war. You will not return, and friends will never come back. There will be no smoky kitchens, no usual jobs. There will be no dreamy lights in sleepy towns, no green valleys, no suburban wastelands. The sun will be a smudge on the window of a cheap train, rushing past cholera pits covered with lime. There will be blood on women's heels, tired guards on borderlands covered with snow, a postman with empty bags shot down, a priest with a hapless smile hung by his ribs, the quiet of a cemetery, the noise of a command post, and unedited lists of the dead. So long that there won't be enough time to check them for your own name.
Let me give you some stories, because many of you might admire the poets, but who are these people? So the very poet that Carolyn just read, Zadan, is pretty much a national poet of Ukraine at this moment. But what does that mean? He's a kind of combination of Leonard Cohen, Allen Ginsberg, and maybe 7 other people. He literally had a rock band, super popular rock band. People are jumping for hours in front of him, reciting. But at the same time, as you just heard, he's writing very nuanced lyrical poetry. The first poet we read was Lysyuk Panasyuk, a lot lesser known poet from Bucha. Poet who is probably in his early 30s, who left Bucha when the invasion began. When he came back, Bucha is a kind of well-to-do town. So when he came back, he found that something is weird. So he and his neighbors got people to check radiation layers. And in his apartment, soldiers stayed. And the apartment is to this day uninhabitable because of the layer of radiation. So this is one of the stories behind the poems. As they fled from Bucha, his grandmother died. That's another story behind the poems. The poem that Asko read comes from a legendary poet, a poet who became a legendary novelist at this moment. What is interesting about her is it's so hard to write this, anti-war poems. Yeah, war is bad. Yeah, glory to Ukraine. We heard that before. But what is interesting about the Bushka is some of her older poems come back with entirely different meaning. And it was so clear as you read. It was a lyrical poem about the nature of poetry, and yet it means so much else today as well. The poet that I hope you will hear right now is Ilya Kaminsky, a poet who was from Donbass, who had to leave her home when the first part of this invasion began. And then she had to leave her home again when the second part of the invasion began. Would you do it, Nana?
Thank you so much, Ilya and Carolyn, for including some of my work and also Yulia's work in this wonderful volume. Yes, Kiva, as Ilya was just saying, is a refugee twice over, first in 2014 and then in 2022 when she was stuck outside of her adopted cave and couldn't get back in. The labyrinth. You get a sickly short haircut, as if preparing your head for something horrible. More horrible than life, than death, than war, for all the things you can't imagine, for all the things you won't remember, because in this country, fear has nowhere to hide. No shelter, no crack, no corner in the labyrinth of memory. So an exhausted minotaur awaits the Theseus on that perfectly formed Greek vase.
I think this was an urgent collection, and the poetry in this collection, some of it was written before the current invasion, but all of it was written out of the condition of extremity. And that extremity affects not only the poets, but their language, their souls, their hearts, their lives. All of this is deeply internalized. And so when they take pen to paper, all of that comes to the page. It's not as though you sit down and decide, I'm going to write a poem against the war. No, you sit down and you pour out in the most compressed, luminous, condensed, musical way what is within you. And that is what has happened here. I want to read a poem that is unusual for this volume in that it's read by Boris Humenuk, and Ilya will tell you about him later, but this is his poem, When You Clean Your Weapon. When you clean your weapon, when time and again you clean your weapon, when you rub strong-smelling oils into your weapon, and shield it from the rain with your own body, when you swaddle it like a baby, even though you've never swaddled a baby before. You're only 19. No baby, no wife. The weapon becomes your only kin. You and the weapon are one. When you dig trench after trench, when you dig this precious, this hateful earth by handfuls, every other handful reaches your soul. You grind this earth between your teeth. You never will have another. You climb into the earth, like into your mother's womb. You are warm and snug. You've never felt this close to anyone before. You and the earth are one. When you shoot, even when it's at night, and you don't see the enemy's face, even when night hides the enemy from you, and you from the enemy, and embraces each of you as her own. You smell like gunpowder. Your hands, face, hair, clothing, shoes, no matter how much you wash them, smell of gunpowder. They smell of war. You smell of war. You and the war are one.
What the book is trying to do is also to give a geographical diversity of the country. And Humenuk is a poet who is from Chernobyl. He was very, very active in Revolution of Dignity in 2013. And now he's pretty much known as the soldier poet. He writes poems right in the trenches. And in fact, I asked it about him a few weeks ago, and a friend of mine who was in touch with him haven't heard from him in a month. So I hope he's okay. It would be logical to go now to a different geographical part, let's say to the south, and from a soldier we might as well go to a doctor. Would you mind reading a poem from Boris Khersonsky?
That's okay. Thank you so much for including both Khersonsky, Lyudmila and Boris, not coincidentally married to each other. And somewhere in this book they are. Boris used to write in Russian and actually was published in Moscow. Several of his books appeared in a major literary publisher, I can speak, but following 2014 he began to write in both languages, Ukrainian as well as Russian, and he was quite in the late middle age doing that. So, people carry explosives around the city. People carry explosives around the city in plastic shopping bags and little suitcases. They trample the cobblestone. We learn their secrets only the day after. And even then, it's just checking the facts. How many windows shattered? How many collapsed balconies? Did anyone die? Or is everyone alive and kicking? Only frightened that there is no more peaceful life, perhaps. War happened, and the laws of war are a cruel thing. Or perhaps there are no more laws, and explosions are the new normal. We don't get up from the table, just shiver and shed some hope. An enemy chooses weapons as a thief finds the pick for the door, when in fact the door was already open.
Then we have the inanimate things. This is houses discuss. The houses are having a conversation. Houses oh, I'm sorry, I should tell you because it's not nice not to do this. I have to give you the houses discuss is Ekaterina Derisheva, translated by Tatiana Rekipov. Houses discuss with each other where the projectile exploded and the glass lenses were blown to shreds. Only natural light remains. The air instead of food and water. Houses would have wanted to become giants, go to a quiet place, but there is none. And each house, while being destroyed, climbs higher and higher along the twisted threads of the clouds.
Usually the poet from Kharkov who had to escape Kharkov under bombardment. I will probably close on a poet who's still in Kharkov under bombardment. But before that, just a few words about Khersonsky, since I have known him for 2 decades. When I saw him about 10 years ago, we arranged to meet at a cafe. When I came in the morning, cafe was blown up. People began to gather, poets began to speak against violence. Next week, people who didn't like what he said blew up the door to his apartment. So words matter. When another idiot publishes an article in New York Times saying poetry doesn't matter, remember the following. When the city of Kyiv was bombed, a poet and a translator was living literally for weeks in the subway. Thousands of people were living in the subway because in a modern city, bomb shelters is not a commodity. What do you do in a subway for weeks? You're bored out of your mind. Everybody around you is bored out of your mind. So she began to write some poems that she remembered by heart. How many poems do you need to remember by heart to keep yourself occupied for 2 weeks? So she began to translate those poems. Little kids running around her were also bored out of their minds. So they come out to her, what are you doing? Translating poems, oh wow, let's do it. And so little children were gathered in a circle, translating poems together. Personally, I don't need another argument to why poetry matters. Here is a slightly longer poem, forgive me, by a pretty much unknown poet from Ukraine, Dmitry Bliznyuk. He's not a rock star, but he has buried his neighbors in his front yard, literally. He's got the cemetery was pumped out. This is a poem that begins with the following lines, which we took as a title in English, it's untitled in the original. Take immortality, God. Take immortality, God, but give me this cold apple seller. Take souls and other toys, but let us live. Not Adam, and not Eve, not your son's, my son's life. What hope in a silent, with a wooden floor is a promised land. But no, we need cement floors and the smell of cats and mattresses and a bunch of solid blankets. The city breathes though they poke us with missiles needlework. Watch. A mad tailor makes of a city a headless costume without hands. This is your human being, God, and not a retail display mannequin. The future is a door of mud glass, the color of raw diamond. This door opens inside my chest every moment. Each breath is a breath out, sometimes faster, sometimes not at all. In a time of war, the future jumps out like a flood, no, a grasshopper. 1 second, and there is nothing, no future, just emptiness, pulsating. In a peacetime, the epoch leaks us off in measured strokes. But now the mud teeth of crumbling gremlin chew on us. And our land is decorated with bloody fragments of cement walls. I see a soldier's head diving in snow after my neighbor Miss Valia. The murderers are lit from inside by the saliva of their sick ideas. I see them 12 miles off. And the dots jump like pebbles on thick ice. The brass storms into wild civet. We are holding hands, while night, hungry like an animal, sniffs at balconies, eyes whiten. Is anyone here alive? The walls of this town are tossed out of the ground with their roots. The staircases are torn up like unfinished poems. The body and the asphalt is a black red sleeping bag. Is that a person? I don't know. Is that a person? The evening jumps. You have no place on this earth, you and I, God. But you can drown in this your blood, the sea free of people. Watch the centipedes of tanks crawling on their mechanical needs. Won't swallow this street, that street, this street. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of all the poets, I'm going to call Esco back to say a few words. We are going to sign books after. We're happy to talk to you in person, but here's Eskold, our hero, Eskold.
My name is Hanna Melnyczuk, and I'm the publisher of Arrowsmith Books. And I just want to take a moment to offer a few thank yous. We in the Boston area like to take gatherings such as this for granted and forget the effort that goes into bringing us all here together. First, thanks to you all for attending. To the Brookline Booksmith for so generously hosting us. specifically to Lisa Guzashti and Pierce Alquist for all their support for Ukraine over the last 18 months. Also, for all their help behind the scenes in so many different ways. Next, I need to thank the fabulous team that I have the privilege of working with at Aerosmith. There's Lada Stitsevich, Rebecca Pacheco, Rohan Diaz, Natalia Shpilova Said, Nydia Hernandez, Catherine Parnell, and our senior editor Ezra Fox, who has produced these beautiful, luscious volumes. All of whom work together really out of love. It's a venture out of love. It's not a profit-making project. Thank you to tonight's readers, Amelia Glaser, Maya Chhabra, Andrew Janco, Olga Livshin, Carolyn Forché, Ilya Kaminsky, for the many surprises, for the powerful work that they have done at every level here. Some of them traveled a considerable distance to be here with us. I think Amelia flew in from California, others from Philadelphia, DC, New Jersey. Their passion inspired us at the press. Finally, our thanks to the poets who provided the bedrock on which all else arose, because we know poetry makes so much happen. I want to just say one thing, that Hannah's book of art is all the profits from that are being donated to support Ukrainian artists and booksellers, publishers. So please support that book, or indeed all the books. I hope you'll now show your appreciation by speaking to the writers, getting them to sign their books. Thank you all so much for coming.